Hello everyone, welcome to our second episode of The Final Take. I'm Parker Mott.
And I'm Jason Rogers.
And today we'll be reviewing The Book of Eli, Daybreakers, and Peter Jackson's new movie, The Lovely Bones.
Also, be sure to stick around for our DVD picks of the week, and last week you saw our worst, and this week you're going to see our best of 2009. Stick around.
Here we go.
They say the war tore a hole in the sky. Only a few survived. That was 30 winters ago.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. The first movie up on our list today is The Book of Eli. The Book of Eli stars Denzel Washington as a traveler who is traveling across a post-apocalyptic world to deliver this mysterious book known as the Book of Eli. The action in this movie, this is directed by the Hughes brothers, who had a previous thing was From Hell, which was nearly a decade ago. The action in this movie is absolutely spectacular. There's some wonderful sword sequences that are really well edited to promote violence and a very visceral touch to it that I really enjoyed. Also, the aspect of the chase sequences, trying to find these wanderers across the desert, is very nice as well. But these are exciting moments spread over a very bland experience. There's a very big religious aspect of this movie that really does not atone for the rest of the action that is in the movie. You wish it was more balanced, and it just does not flow very properly. It is very sporadic in its approach, and as good as the action is in this movie, I really wish I saw more of it. Denzel Washington is very low-key in this role. He's not really that exciting. He's very down, very kind of depressed almost kind of guy. I'm not going to spoil a big twist at the end. It actually wasn't a bad twist at all, I must say. But a twist and a really good action is not enough to save the Book of Eli from drowning itself in religious aspects and boredom. I unfortunately have to say skip it.
Yeah, I watched that opening was really good. It was kind of like this non-dialogue opening. I'm like, okay, this is kind of interesting. This is how this guy is living. The problem with the movie, though, in the opening, even though there's a non-dialogue segment, that's like a set piece in itself. You all know that from There Will Be Blood, and it's very effective when they do that. The problem is you don't get to learn anything about this environment. It doesn't really become a character, and you need that in a post-apocalypse story. Like The Road, they had the trees crashing down, which kind of showed if the cannibals aren't going to get you, the nature will get you itself. But here, it's just like a CGI-filled sort of post-apocalyptic world, and it's kind of boring. Yeah. And so, of course, I'm gonna have to say skip it too. I'm right with you. There's so many concepts here, and it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. It has a lot of good ideas that like I like the fact that it doesn't really tell you how this world has happened. That was very interesting. It leaves that to the imagination. And then there's also the aspect of them trying to rule the towns. They're trying to build their own towns back together, ruled by this one guy, and that doesn't go anywhere.
I kind of like that part because it was kind of like this Western sort of thing going, like what you mentioned. Yeah. You know, it's kind of this Denzel Washington son of a desperado comes in, but it doesn't do anything with that. Honestly, the action sequences, the sword fights, like the silhouette shot with Denzel Washington. Very good. That I was like, wow, it was kind of this Tarantino Kill Bill sort of thing going. I'm like, that's cool. It's got some intertextuality, really interesting. But then the rest of the story is the material doesn't have enough weight to support itself. It just collapses.
I know. It's almost like it's trying to support its boredom with sporadic instances of action. Okay, how are we supposed to travel all the way across the desert and not make this boring? Okay, well, let's put this in the movie. That'll be exciting. It's just, you can't do that. It has to flow properly for me to be interested in it. And the action was fantastic, and I really wish I saw more of it. But it doesn't make up for the only mediocre performances. They're not bad. It's Gary not good either.
Gary Oldman's good.
Gary Oldman is great. He's almost
good, though.
He's good in the Batman The Dark Knight. So there you go. He was very good as the commissioner in that. And in this one, he's kind of almost an over the top role. It was almost very cliche. And it would have been fun maybe if he even went a little more. Yeah.
You're not just educated.
I never saw anyone handle themselves the way you did. I don't know where you learned it, but I sure as hell could use it. There's a little town. Just the beginning. I'm about to expand. I need expert help. I could use someone like you.
They can film an action sequence, but
They can
other
film
than
an
that,
action
the film
sequence.
is boring.
It's simply not enough excitement
Yeah,
for
so-
your dollar. I'm sorry.
It's got to be a skivet.
Got to be a skivet for me too.
All right.
What happens when there isn't a single drop left?
And if you thought Twilight wasn't enough, we now have Daybreakers, another collection of the excruciating amounts of vampire films we've had over the past year. This is directed by the Spierig brothers, and it stars Ethan Hawke, also a vampire, part of this huge corporation of vampires. Basically what's going on is the human race is becoming extinct, and everyone is turning into the proverbial bloodsuckers.
These are desperate times.
We only have enough blood to sustain our population till the end of the month.
We're talking about the extinction of the human race.
We also even get William Dafoe playing a man named Elvis, because he suits that name for sure, with wielding crossbows and a very, very funny, but even though his lines are very terrible, a relatively good performance.
I was like you once, not no more. Who are you? We're the folks with the crossbows.
Daybreakers has this sort of political allegory going, and it really works in that sense. Though the ending is completely overblown, it just kind of turns everything on its head. It goes from a political allegory to a mindless action flick. That may not work, but there's a lot of fun here, a lot of good entertainment. Ethan Hawke is good, of course. And it has its scares. It could have had more scares, definitely, because this is a vampire film. It's supposed to be frightening. Daybreakers has an original spin-off of the usual vampire film. So just for that originality, I'm going to give it a marginal see it. I'm kind of on the edge with it. I know the ending's really overblown, but the performances are good enough and the action sequences are decent, so I'm going to say marginal see it for me.
This movie's a mixed bag for me because it starts off with such promise, with such interesting ideas, like Ethan Hawke looks at himself in a mirror and he doesn't have a head, and
Yes, that's very cool.
It keeps the vampire aspects that you know and maybe love. I don't know what your aspect of vampires is now these days with the stupid Twilight movies.
So much, yeah.
But it has some very good ideas. He's actually kind of a vegetarian vampire, which I thought was really cool in that aspect. But this is going to be a rent it for me, and here's why. It's just, it has a lot of wonderful stuff going for it, great ideas. I liked a lot of the acting in it, but despite, the horrible script that's very predictable and very, very...
Oh, I don't, okay, not horrible. It was not the best. I mean, it's better than Twilight.
Okay, it's not a horrible script, but it's very, very predictable. Like I totally knew how this was going to end, and it's just...
Really?
You had more fun with it than me because I think you liked the ideas more. And I'm like, I knew going in that there was going to be a lot of good ideas, so I was like ready for that. I was ready for some good ideas. How are they going to expand on these ideas? How are these ideas going to contribute to this wonderful plot that they have? And they're really the ideas are there, and it's just sort of they're obviously left to the side of it. Like I understand. I like the whole fact he doesn't drink bloods, and the blood attracts these vampires that are kind of deprived of blood, and that was all very interesting.
I thought we got to know all these characters equally well. I mean, there's this really cool thing with the subsiders beneath in the subways, just below the subways, and they're like scrambling around for paper and everything. That was kind of a really creepy thing, and it kind of shows a society and these people, not just the human race who are being extinct as throughout the whole story, but the vampires, they have their own problems too. They're a completely desperate society, and so are the humans. They're facing their extinction, whereas the vampires, they're losing blood. And I thought that was a really interesting spin-off, and it even provides a lot of action, which it didn't drag for me at all.
No.
Read the sign, sir. We're now only permitted to serve 5% blood with every coffee.
I don't care what the science says.
This type of movie does not need to be this smart. It's much like the movie Duplicity. It doesn't need to be that smart.
Why does it have to be this smart, though? Because all the vampire movies now are just mindless films, except for Let the Right One In was very complex. But the Twilight and all those films are just it's so mundane. It's just
yes, and that's why those are
the effort's there.
Yeah, I know. The effort is here, but it's just... I would have preferred this just to be mindless, like the Book of Eli. I would have preferred that it took that path, with these great ideas. So it's okay, this movie is at least trying to be smart, and then we have some awesome stuff. But instead, it has these ideas. Then it goes into a whole, we're trying to save the race, we're trying to do this, and we found a discovery. It's like some sort of scientific documentary type of thing.
I thought it was very ironic, and I thought it was very good.
Maggie!
Who would think vampires are likable? But you feel for these people because it's a terrible situation, and I thought that's obviously doing something with this kind of political allegory they got going on.
I agree with you that I like the fact that it tries to make the vampires human, but it's just not enough for me to say, hey, that $10 was well spent. It's not a bad movie at all. It's just not good enough.
All right, fair enough.